Hello everybody, it's Sylvie. Welcome or welcome back to Tarot Magpie. I hope you're doing good. Today I'm talking about decks I've been neglecting. So I recently, throughout the month of January, did a little mini series of videos going through my entire collection of tarot and oracle decks, and then also a bonus video about my books, if you're interested. But as I was going through all of my decks for the videos, I realized that there's a healthy handful. I say handful. Technically speaking, a single deck is a handful. There's 10 handfuls of decks that I feel like I've been neglecting. Like I was going through like, why don't I play with these more? Or I feel like I got them. I maybe did a walkthrough. I maybe have done a few readings with them, a week of daily draws, a month of daily pulls. And then I just kind of feel like I haven't really picked them up since. So that's what I'm going through today, is those decks that I feel need a bit of TLC and attention from myself. And this is mainly because I thought you might be interested. I'm nosy and I'm interested in these kinds of things. The decks that people have that aren't their most used, most favorite in rotation, but are ones that they want to play with a little bit more. So if you're like me, I thought you might enjoy. But also this is kind of almost like an accountability thing. Like I don't have particular plans to check back in, although I might do. That could be cool. Check back in like 6 months or a year or whatever and see how much I've actually used these. But the act of making a video and bothering to film it and then having to edit it and upload it makes me feel like a little bit more concrete, because I have 100 different ideas and thoughts in a day, and the ones that make it into video form are ones that I feel like I'm making a bit of a commitment to. So this is my commitment to play with these decks more. I have been rambling. I'm going to get straight into it. So, okay, in no particular order, first up, we've got the Goddess of Love Tarot. I purchased this. I received this from myself for my birthday when it released back toward the end of September last year. I kind of fell hard for this deck. I think I did like a second impressions of this. I didn't do like my first impressions. I didn't do my first thoughts. I didn't do like an initial walkthrough, but I've been playing with this for a couple of weeks and I want to talk about it. So there's a video off my channel going through, it's not a full review because I don't feel like I had used it enough to do a full review, but it was a walkthrough, it was my thoughts having done a few readings with it, having sat with the guidebook a little bit. So that is up, and I fell hard for this. It was a brief but intense love affair, if you forgive the pun, and it's really beautiful. I really love the guidebook. I really want to trim this. I know the reason I haven't trimmed this is because for the first however many weeks I was pulling this deck out all the time. And so I didn't want to be trimming it and not be able to use it because half of it was a different size. So I loved this. And then, you know, as things go, I got a new deck in, or I picked something else up, or I don't know, went away for a weekend, and immediately everything in my practice changes when I do that. The minute I get out of a routine, it's the brain that I've got. I love a routine, but the second I get out of a routine, it's like that routine never happened. I can have a habit for weeks, for months, but the second I stop performing that habit or stop working with that routine, it's like it never happened in my brain. I can't just go back to it. It's hard work. Anyway, something happened. I stopped using this deck so much. I think maybe I want to trim it and edge it. I just want to take some of the red off. I think that would be really cool. I'm going to trim it and edge it in either a pink to match the backs or a red to match the borders. And maybe that can be like a little act of getting to know this deck again and remembering that I own it and remembering that it's really cool, and I want to work with the guidebook more. So the guidebook is, first of all, the pink font we love. The major cards, they each have a ritual kind of associated with them, and I want to maybe try some of those out. I think that would be a really fun, cool thing to do, to like bond with this deck as well. The minors do not have rituals, but they do have journal questions and affirmations, so I feel like I want to like get into it with this deck a bit more. So that is the Goddess of Love Tarot. As you can see from the guidebook, it's a book and deck for embodying the erotic divine feminine, which I think maybe is part of the reason that I haven't already jumped into working with the rituals and the journal prompts, because that's not something I'm doing on the daily. It's quite like a specific use case, almost. If I'm like really going to dive into the rituals and the journaling prompts about the erotic divine feminine, that's not something I'm doing like on a random Thursday morning. Like, that's not how I use the cards. So it's quite a niche use case, but I think I do want to get into it and see what the book has to offer. Okay, so full disclosure, I have had like 2 hours of sleep per night for the past 2 or 3 nights. So if we're extra rambly, that is why. Okay, next up. Completely different vibes. This is the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinane. And we all know I love an MJ Cullinane deck. For whatever reason, I just feel like I reach for my Hay House decks from MJ Cullinane more often than this one. So I have this Crow Tarot, and then I have one of her indie published decks, the Raven's Dream, and I have the Hay House copies of the Guardian of the Night, the Grimalkin's Curious Cats, and the Phoroxa, the Enchanted Phoroxa. And I don't know why, but I reach for her Hay House decks way more often. Maybe I also should have put Raven's Dream in this little collection. But I feel like I do work with that one a bit more. So I just feel like this deck gets ignored, which is insane behavior. I love this Five of Pentacles. I just think the colors are incredible. Yeah, I feel like this deck just gets neglected. Like, I have a whole collection of MJ Cullinane decks, and this one is not the one I reach for, which is a shame. I recently pulled this out to try and pair it with, I think, the Hush Tarot. I did a kind of playing with pairs video recently, and I was hoping this would work with the Hush Tarot. I wasn't convinced in doing some like pulls on camera, but I just think it's such a cool deck. Like, it's an easy reader because it's very Rider-Waite-Smith based. Like, you know, this is a pretty typical Four of Pentacles. It's a pretty typical King of Cups. Like, you see a lot of the symbols, and even though they're crows, like a lot of the like positioning that you would expect to see. Like, this is a Four of Wands. So it's a pretty easy reader in that sense. But then I think a combination of the art style being a little bit abstract, and also the fact that it's crows and not people, and the crows are behaving like crows. They're not super anthro something. They're behaving like crows. They're not like people with crow heads on or anything. And I think it can be, there's a word for, like, it's straightforward, but it's also a little bit like deep and mysterious. I don't know, it's just an interesting perspective. I think this High Priestess is beautiful. I think this Queen of Wands is fantastic. And I don't know why I don't reach for it more, because it's really cool. And I just feel like I need to show it some love. I wish it was trimmable. The US Games cardstock is just a little bit too big. I've got another US Games one that I'm going to grab. And again, it has the same issue. It's exactly the same size. It's the Heart and Hands Tarot. And I did do a... What am I doing? I'm putting a deck somewhere. I'm not going to grab it again. This is the Heart and Hands Tarot. This is another US Games one. I basically picked this up on a whim. I did a walkthrough video. I have barely touched it since. In my defense, that was back... I love these backs. Again, pun not intended. That was back in sometime in December. And then December was just very, very busy. January's been very, very busy. So I've not been reaching for decks that I am not comfortable with, that I don't feel like I already know quite well. So that's partly why this hasn't been reached for. I've just not really had the opportunity, not really like carved out the time in the space. And, you know, that's fine. I'm not beating myself up about that, but I want to use this. I don't want this to just sit on a shelf and never get used. So this is also just really cool. Like, as you can see, it's a black and white deck. And I spoke about this when I spoke about this deck in my collection video. So I will try not to repeat myself too much. But despite this being black and white, I don't have the issue with some black and white decks where I feel like it's, like, if I was to pull 3 cards, I feel like these cards are like visually distinct from each other. I don't feel like my, purely in a visual processing kind of way, I've got another black and white deck where it all kind of looks the same and it's hard for me to see what I'm looking at. Whereas I think because there's a lot more use of like varying line thickness and these solid black areas, like I just feel like this is a little bit easier to pick out. And maybe because of the borders as well, it's got quite fat white borders, which again, I think like I want to trim it down to this size because I like this size better, but I think that would be, I would lose a lot of the effect, the impact of the white borders. So I need to work with it as it is. But I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool. Yeah, that's basically all there is to it. I think this design is fantastic. Like propagating, I just think that's so cool. Yeah, I'm going to try not to repeat myself because like I say, I have a full walkthrough of this, gushing about how cool every card is as I go through it, and it deserves some love. This one also has like what looks like it's going to be quite a good guidebook in the sense that we have more than a sentence for each of the minor cards, and there's a spread at the back that looks really cool as well. I want to do a video or something where I go through a bunch of deck guidebooks and do the spreads that come with decks, because I quite often don't do those. I kind of forget about them. Anyway, next up, Eldritch Overload. Right, sorry, I'm more scatterbrained than usual because things are happening. This is the Eldritch Overload Tarot, which I feel like I talk about all the time. And that holographic is beautiful in real life. It's fussy on camera. It's kind of hard to see the cards, so apologies for that. But I did use this recently in a video. I was using the Spread Machine Quest expansion Oracle. Is it called the Spread Machine or the Spread Crafters? I think it's called the Spread Crafters now, and it used to be called the Spread Machine. Either way, I have the video up. I'll link it. Go check it out. They both have like a D&D RPG theme, so I was using these together. And it reminded me how much I love this deck, and then that reminded me how I feel like I haven't really touched this since the summer. And I also have the glorious Codex guidebook, which I think is just it's a really straightforward functional guidebook for reading tarot. Like, it's got enough detail, it asks questions, it's got some, not journaling prompts, but questions to ask of yourself when you pull this card, which you could totally use as journaling prompts, but they're not explicitly designed to be that, I don't think. Like, it's just a really, like, on days when I'm very brain foggy, maybe I've only had 2 hours sleep per night for the past 3 nights, but I want to play with some cards, but I don't really want to get into anything too heavy or have to do too much thinking. I think this is a good one because it's fun to look at, it's pretty, it's sparkly. I love the theming. Like I say, this has a D&D component in the guidebook as well, so it's fun. And the guidebook is just, it's really good at like walking you through a reading, which, you know, I feel like I know my cards. I don't need to be walked through a reading, but sometimes it's nice to be walked through a reading. Sometimes I like don't want to work too hard. I just want to pull some cards because I like pulling cards. So I think that's my kind of game plan with this one, is to like this. Oh, this mood is just so cool. Like the like cyber, it's very cyberpunky. It's the cyberpunk fantasy setting, and like this glitchy moon. I don't know, I just think that's so cool. I think that so perfectly encapsulates the vibes of the moon card. Oh, I've just noticed there's a little butterfly doodle in the back of the Queen of Swords, and she's got some badass boots on, which we love. I've been neglecting this. It's really fun. It deserves more love. That is that. This is the Raven's Prophecy Tarot, which I edged in a fantastic orange. I spoke about this recently. I briefly mentioned it in my Decks Discovered Through Others, TarotTube Made Me Do It video that I did. It's a tag VR, which I will also link below. And this is fantastic. So this is based on Maggie Stiefvater's Raven Cycle books. Again, I'll try not to repeat myself too much. And going through it for my collection video and going through it for that tag video, I was like, the imagery is just fantastic. I love the combination of the vibrant colours on the black background. There's something about the mood of this deck, and perhaps also because I associate it with that book series, it feels very welcoming. And not because the energy of the deck is particularly welcoming, but because I have the associations with the world that this deck is in. It feels familiar, maybe more than welcoming. Like, it's comfortable in the sense that I feel like I know where I'm at with this deck. And actually, maybe that is also what I need at the moment, just because the brain is doing its thing and making everything difficult. So, I love this fool as well. Yeah, and I just feel like I've been neglecting this. I use this for my daily little study, my daily mini study pull that I do. I pick a new deck every month and I pull one card, I read the guidebook, I take a couple notes, and that's about it. So it's not an in-depth study, but it's a thing that I like doing to get to know a deck, and just to get to know a guidebook as well, because I am guilty of ignoring guidebooks a lot of the time, because like I say, I feel like I know my way around a deck of tarot cards, and I have other reference books that I like to use, so I don't always reach for the guidebook if I do feel like I need to reach for a book. I often don't feel like I need to reach for a book. You know what I mean? So the guidebook for this it's a good guidebook for this deck as well. But yeah, I just really enjoy this, and it feels comfy, it feels familiar. I also really like the size of Llewellyn tarot decks. I hate the boxes they come in, but like, it's a comfy little size. And yeah, I'm waxing lyrical, waxing poetic. I'm waxing something. Ooh, that's not fun. So, Raven's Prophecy. The next two decks kind of go together. I don't know if it'll pick up on camera because I've got my lights up, but it has suddenly got so dark and gloomy outside, and it's like the middle of the day. So I have a horrid feeling I'm going to have a very gloomy, rainy, miserable walk with the dog later. But anyway, right now we're talking about decks. So these are two decks by the same artist. It's the Terra Arcanae and the Oceanum Arcanae by Taylor Bryn Hultquist Todd. I can't really read the font, so apologies if I've got that wrong. But these come together because they literally came to me together. I backed on Kickstarter. This is the newer one, the Terra Arcanae. So maybe we'll do the Ocean first. She's doing an elemental series of decks. Obviously, I want all four. Of course I do. Look at me. I'm a collector. I have 10 whole decks that I've been neglecting. Like, I'm very clearly a collector. Most people don't have 10 decks. And I have 10 whole decks that I'm not really using. So anyway, she's doing a series. She did the Ocean one a couple years ago. And then she, last year, did the Earth one. And because I'm a sucker, and also the way it worked out on Kickstarter with fees and shipping and things, I got both of them together. So I got the Terra and I got the Ocean as an add-on. And they arrived together. They arrived around the same time. I think they arrived in September. My birthday was in September, so I had quite a lot going on. I had a lot of other new stuff coming in. And I just feel like I've not really reached for these because they are obviously animal decks. The Ocean one being ocean creatures. The Earth one is earth creatures. The Earth one I think is all mammals. And the Ocean one is very clearly not all fish, but it's all ocean-dwelling creatures. And I think they're really, really beautiful. I love the artwork. I also do love an animal deck. A moment, please, for this star card. Stunning. But I think I've got to be in a certain kind of mood for an animal deck, or maybe it's not that I've got to be in a certain kind of mood, but I feel like I have to get to know a new animal deck. Camera cut me off. Rude. But I was saying something I'm like working on or trying to intentionally focus my energy on a little bit more is animal associations, kind of connecting animals with energies and all that jazz. So all that to say, I feel like I need to get to know a new animal deck, and I think since I got these, I've just not really been in the mood to do so. And then also, and this is probably quite silly, because there's two of them, I'm like, well, I can't choose, so I'm not going to work with either of them, because I don't want the other one to feel left out, which is entirely ridiculous, I'm well aware. But this one here is the backs are gorgeous as well. It's the ocean and the earth. Stunning. This is the earth deck, and this one, I think this one is all mammals, except for the Wheel of Fortune card. Like, look at him. Oh, it's so cute. Yeah, this one, like, it's the raccoon for the seven of them. Like, I think it's just beautiful. Same as the ocean. I have nothing particularly different to say about this versus the ocean, because it's obviously the same art style, which I still really enjoy. I think this one is, maybe it's just the cards I'm pulling. This one feels a little bit darker, like visually, like there's more black in it, I mean. Not like thematically darker necessarily. But stunning. I also want to try and pair these. I think these would be fun to pair with some things maybe. I love all the gemstones in the Pentacles card. And we've got bats for the courts. Bats for the swords court, rather. Which I adore because I love a bat. And the swords court in the ocean one is sharks. I care about swords because I'm a swords kind of bitch. Like, I'm a Libra, so the Queen of Swords is my significator. And also I am an airy person, and I'm most at home in the realms of swords things, of logic and mental shit and working stuff out and communication and all that jazz. Communication, I say, as I ramble my way through this video, but I'm having a good time, so I still think it counts as me being an airy person. Anyhow, yeah, I just feel like I've been neglecting these, which is the whole point of the video, but oh, that's beautiful. I got weirdly not nervous to use them, because I'm not afraid of the cards by any stretch. It's not that I'm like nervous to use the decks. Oh, that's not a fun card. Neither's that. Hey, there I am. Okay, Queen of Swords. Yeah, I'm not nervous to use the cards because I'm not scared of using them. It's just something in my brain says, well, you've had them for this long and you haven't used them. So now there's like a weird kind of pressure that I am putting on myself that is not coming from anything external and doesn't make any sense. Like, look. Just beautiful, are they not? So yeah, so there's some weird kind of pressure in my brain that I just need to get over. So I think pairing them would be fun. Pairing decks is such a good way to like break the ice for me if I feel weirdly, oh, there's a word. It's like kind of not intimidated. Just I feel like there's a hurdle to get over in using these decks. And playing with pairs is always a really fun way to get over that hurdle for me. So maybe that's what I'll do, but they're beautiful, they're gorgeous. Also, like, on a very selfish kind of note, or a very self-involved note, rather, I'm not going to let myself, I think she's working on the fire deck, which hopefully is coming out this year, and I'm not going to let myself get the fire deck if I haven't worked with these, because that would seem silly, and I want to collect all of them. So I need to work with these. I need to ensure that I can work with them, that I enjoy working with them, and also that I think that having the full set of all 4 elements would actually be valuable in my collection. Like, you know, I might work with these and decide that I don't need any more, although I'm gonna want the air one, so we'll see. Anyhow, moving swiftly on, or moving not so swiftly on. Okay, next up we have the New Chapter Tarot. This is a Liminal 11 deck. And so, we've heard this rant before on my channel, right? Like, Liminal 11. You know, should you be watching my video? Which I very much doubt. Like, look, the box is beautiful, the foiling, like, it's got its cute little magnetic thing, but it's fiddly. This bit of cardboard, you can see, like, the cards don't actually fit in the box very well. And then we have this little hardback book, which, again, like, sure, it's cute, you get a little hardback book, but the font is so tiny. I have 20/20 vision, and I struggle to read this. Like, it's just... it's not ideal. And then we only get keywords for the... oh no, okay, we get like a whole couple sentences for the minors. That's not as bad as usual. But anyway, and then the cardstock. Can you hear that? It's like cereal box cardboard. I beg of you, Liminal 11, put the money into nicer cardstock and just give us a tuck box and a little white book. I suppose they're less giftable that way. Anyway, mini rant about the physical experience of this deck. That's the barrier for me. And that sounds like extremely, what's the word? Like entitled maybe? But like I have so many decks that knowing that it's a faff to get into this one, I'll reach for something else half the time. But this is a beautiful deck. And I think it's so clever. Like here, our Queen of Swords, Water of Air, like she's walking on the water. She's got her wing. It's very Justice looking with the way that she's holding the sword, and like I think she's wearing glasses, but you could be forgiven for thinking that's a blindfold. Anyway, it's beautiful. I don't know if it's like there's a lot of geometry in this deck, and I don't know if it's like sacred geometry or if it's just cool shapes. Because I don't know about sacred geometry, like that's not a thing that I know anything about. But it looks really, really cool. And yeah, it's Thothy. And who was it? Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember whose video I watched recently comparing side by side the new chapter Terra and the Thoth. I will, if I find it, I will link it. In case you're also interested in that, but it's got very Thothy vibes, and the Thoth is a system that I really want to dig into this year. Like, oh, is it not just so good? Like, I really need to give it some attention. But yeah, I haven't. I don't know when I got this. I actually don't remember. This is adorable. When will we be published? I feel like I actually don't remember when I bought this. I feel like it's been in my collection. 2021. I don't think I got it when it came out. But I don't know. I've had it for an amount of time. And I don't use it, and I don't know why, because I think the illustrations are incredible. I think I just have beef with Liminal 11's products. Like, not the artwork, but what's the word? Like the physicality of their decks. Like, I don't like the cardstock, I don't like the books, I don't like the boxes. And apparently I'm that petty that will put me off using a deck. But as we can see, the artwork is incredible. And I need to use it. I also love the size of this deck. Like, it's perfect. So that is the new chapter tarot. This is the Midnight Magic. This came out last year, and I got it, I think, pretty much as soon as it released. This also, the box is too big. It's very irritating. I used this for my month of daily draws in, I don't know, May, June last year. And I really love it. I love the artwork. I love the art style. I love the black backgrounds. I love the kind of dreamy, hazy, moonlit vibe that is in the artwork. Like, it's midnight magic. So you really get that vibe though. It's not just like dark, like it feels all kind of midnight, magical, mystical. And although it's mushrooms, I do feel like it accurately, or not accurately, because that implies there's a single correct way to portray a tarot card, but I do feel like it conveys the meaning of the card honestly better than a lot of decks with people in. Honestly better than some Rider-Waite-Smith based, not clones, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's people decks that have less of the tarot energy to the images than this does, and this is just mushrooms, which I think is pretty incredible. I don't know how familiar she actually is with the tarot, but I feel like she knows her stuff, or had some very good guidance on creating these images, because they feel like tarot cards. And also, I really like the guidebook while I got this out, because I don't know a whole lot about different mushroom species. I think mushrooms, fungi are so incredibly cool. I think all the research that's always coming out about them being able to like absorb radiation and oil spills and the communication networks, like, it's all so incredibly cool, but I don't know a lot about like specific mushroom species. But for this deck, there's a different mushroom in each card, and in the guidebook there's a full page for the majors and the minors, and it explains why this mushroom was chosen to represent the energy of here, the world. We've got the honey mushroom, which lives in Oregon's Blue Mountains. At its youngest estimation, the 2,400-year-old mushroom covers nearly 4 square miles with its massive underground network of mycelium. Several mountaintops. Like, how cool is that? Honey mushroom fruiting bodies peek out from the bark of dying trees as a reminder of its achievement. Like, that's, like, that makes sense for the world. Like, it makes a lot of sense. And then we've got some upright and reverse meanings and keywords, which also, like, I enjoyed when I was working with this. I was pulling a card a day. Like, they all made sense. I liked a lot of the keywords. Some of them were, so it's consistent with the Rider-Waite-Smith, but it's not just your like copy paste stock standard Rider-Waite-Smith keywords. Like, some of them were just like a little bit different. It was a cool perspective on the tarot is what I'm getting at. So this turned into a mini review of this deck. My point being, I love this deck. I think it's so cool, but I feel like I just haven't really picked it up. There's King of Swords again. I feel like I haven't really picked it up since I did that daily pull with it. And I think that's a bit of a theme with me, actually, because I feel like I've ever spent a whole month with a deck, even if it's only one card a day. I've been working with a deck for a whole month, and I have so many decks that I'm like, oh, I should be picking up something else, like, as if I don't want to give a single deck too much attention, which again is a ridiculous way of personifying my decks. But anyhow, this is so cool, and I definitely need to pull it out more. Judgment, it's judging me. I promise I did not intend for this video to be like super long, but here we are. This is the final deck though. This is the Bonefire Tarot. This is another one, a little bit like the Heart and Hands, and maybe also like the Ocean and Earth decks. I bought this. I did a walkthrough. There's a walkthrough up on my channel. It's a really long walkthrough, but it was one that I really enjoyed doing. I did a walkthrough. I looked at the guidebook. I did some pairings, probably. Oh, I remember. Okay, so there's 2 reasons why I've not really been playing with this one. One is because I did a walkthrough. I had a lot of new stuff coming in around the same sort of time, and I was also just busy. So I didn't feel like I had the time to devote to learning this deck, because this is, as you can see, it's not a straightforward Rider-Waite-Smith clone. I think it very close, well, except this one, which almost is. Like, I think it aligns very closely with the Rider-Waite-Smith, but there's a lot of symbolism in here. The artist has very much gone her own way with a lot of what's included, which I love, but it means I don't want to just pull it out of the box and read it like it was a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Like, you have in your head, you have your tarot card meanings, and a lot of decks, you can pull cards and just apply those meanings that you're familiar with. I don't want to do that with this one. I want to be working with the guidebook, because the guidebook is really, really cool. And then the other reason I haven't been working with this is because it's just visually overwhelming. Like, Do you see what I mean? Again, it's a visual processing thing. I can't see what I'm looking at. It's the weirdest thing to try and explain. Like, it takes more effort to see what I'm looking at, because the imagery is very chaotic, which I love, but I think it suffers from a lack of a border, because they all kind of merge into each other. They're not distinctive images, and I would have to spend more time literally just looking at the cards to see what's in front of me. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like it's my brain is the way it is, and it's a visual processing thing, but it's a bit of a barrier to using this deck. Like, I still think this looks like Dev Patel. So yes, like, oh, it's beautiful though. But the guidebook is so cool. The guidebook is so cool because, as you can see, there are loads of different like symbols in these cards that are not the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith symbols. Like, we've got like decks of cards pop up all throughout them. This like cube pops up in a lot of cards. So she's got her own like symbolic language that she's incorporated into this deck, and that is something here. So this is the Four of Wands, symbols, cherry blossom, red door, roses. Five of Wands, symbols, cherry blossom, flaming pine cones. And then at the back, is it at the back? Yes. There's a glossary of the symbols. So she's included, you know, here, clouds, heart, Mercury, Pisces, wine. And then you can look up the symbols and see, like, clouds, lack of clarity of mind, a storm gathers, things becoming clearer. This is so cool. I love this guidebook, and I think that was why I spent a lot of time in the video just like, we've got a bibliography. Okay, not quite a bibliography, but like a further reading, which I just simply love because I love a bibliography. It's such a cool guidebook, and I want to work with the deck with the guidebook. So again, it's one that needs a little bit of more intentional study and focus. A little bit like the Heart and Hands maybe, and a little bit like the Goddess of Love. There's too many things I want to do, and there are only so many hours in the day, and this is half the reason why I am doing a deck low buy this year, because I already have a pile of decks and books as tall as me, and I'm 5'8", that I want to like really get into. I've said it before with these edges. So yeah, that is the Bonefire, because I love this Ten of Cups. I just think it's fantastic. Yeah, this I think might be my Aries season deck because it's a fire sign. That's literally all the thought that went into that one. It's a fire sign, so I might use this for my next fire season. But yes, that is the 10th deck that I feel like I've really been neglecting and really need to spend some time with. Specifically, I was trying to keep this to decks that I do feel like I've been neglecting, like they haven't had their chance to be really worked with. Like, I've definitely got a lot of decks where I've done that. I've spent a lot of time with them, I've really gotten to know them, and then I've just not picked them up very often because I have so many decks. Whereas these are ones that I feel like I've missed an opportunity. Not missed an opportunity because life is long, I've got time, but they haven't had that opportunity to like really make an impression, or I haven't used them to the depth that they could be used. Like, all of these I've done at least a couple of quick pulls with, but that's not the same as like really working with a deck, really getting to know a deck and its symbolism and the artist's intentions in the guidebooks. Well, that's not true. Like, this one I feel like I did, but I want to do more because I think it's really cool. So anyhow, I've been talking for a very long time, so I'm gonna let you go. If you have stuck with me this long, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what you think of these decks, if you've got them, if you think I should prioritize any. Let me know what your neglected decks are that just haven't been given much of a chance in your collection. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed. Give me a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.